In recent years, an online debate has begun over which is the best early 2000s kids movie. Is it Shrunk? Is it Singing School Movie 2? Is it Will Smith? But look, he's a fish now. Now, all of these are worthy contenders to be best kids movie, but I feel like the true masterpiece, the true perfect film, trilogy of films perhaps, has been ultimately forgotten. I am, of course, talking about Stuart Smallmouse, commonly known as Stuart Little. When people talk about this classic film, they do it in a mocking tone, by which I mean they meme the shit out of it. They talk about how weird Stuart Little is, how strange this movie is, and it's not fair. It's like if people made fun of other pillars of cinema, like Citizen Kane or Mamma Mia. Here we go again. Again, fantastic movies, but do they reach the level of Stuart Little and its sequels? Yes, sequels, by which I mean more than one, because people are aware of Stuart Little 2, but not so much of Stuart Little 3, Call of the Wild. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about these marvels of cinema, starting with the original, which was written by M. Night Shyamalan and directed by Rob Minkoff. Yes, Rob Minkoff, one of the guys behind The Lion King. Anyway, the movie was released in 1999 and received critical acclaim. Yes, it did. Stuart Little tells the story of an orphaned mouse being adopted by Dr. House and Gina Davis because their son George has no friends and they're adopting him a friend. Okay, so they don't do it for the best reasons, but you know, they're giving him a home. George, on discovering that his parents have got him a pet as a sibling, is really confused and quite rightly so, runs away, never to be seen again. Really quickly, I would like to mention that the actor who plays George is Jonathan Lipnicki, not to be confused with Macaulay Culkin, even though he really does get confused with Macaulay Culkin for no reason. Other weird casting choices include Michael J. Fox in the titular role of Stuart Little. I have seen contradicting reviews over if he was a good or bad choice to play this mouse character, but like, if you're not going to cast this mousy looking man as a mouse, who would you cast? Will Smith? Would you cast Will Smith? It's made in 2018, you'd probably cast Will Smith, wouldn't you? So we quickly established that George and Estuardo do not get along. But that's not the only member of the fam squad that Stuart will have trouble with. Snowball, the family's pet. They do use this tired old cliche of the cat versus mouse thing, but that's only used as a setup so that Snowball too can have an interesting character arc that will pay off at the end of the movie. Now, this movie is quite interesting in the fact that it has a very loose, almost flimsy story. Now, some people might say that it doesn't have a strong narrative and it's just a dumb movie about a rat, but they're very, very wrong. By not structuring itself around a unique one story, it gives us the option to see these many vignettes into this young mouse's life and how he learns to deal with things like identity, race, family, wealth. All these topics are covered very deeply in this movie. It's quite fantastic, really. During the movie, we see how hard it is for George to not be really fucking annoying in every scene he's in.
Come on, George. This will be fun.
I don't want to go shopping with Stuart. Are any of those for me? Are you all nuts? He's not my brother. He's a mouse.
Time to go.
And also see if he'll accept Stuart as his brother or not. He does that as well. So like with all family movies, there's a bit of tension, a bit of rivalry between the siblings, but eventually they'll get along, they'll bond over something. In this case, miniature boating. They play with miniature boats and get along, which is cool, you know. Every family has their thing that they all do, except this one's fucking stupid. And Stuart finally begins to feel like he belongs in the family until his biological parents show up at the Little's doorstep causing uproar. Should Stuart stay with his new adoptive family where he feels comfortable with, or should he go with his ratty parents because they're the same species as him and it's not weird for him to live with them Stuart goes with them, you know, with all good intentions in his heart because they're his parents. Well, actually, they're not. He's just being abducted. Holy shit, this movie gets really dark really quick. Now, everyone is kind of sad, both Stuart and the Littles, because they're separated and Stuart's fucking abducted. But no worries, because Snowbell realizes what's going on, sees how sad the family is without his witty banter, and goes and rescues him from his ratty captors. All is good in the end. This movie teaches us a valuable lesson about family and how it's more about caring and loving than actually being the same species. It's also a technical marvel. Like, Stuart Little looks amazing. He looks so real and fits into every environment we see him in. The actors complement this beautifully. They really do a good job to immerse us in this experience. It's amazing, right? Just it's amazing how technically advanced this was. A movie that came out in 1999 looks better than James Cameron's Avatar. And that came out 10 years later. Imagine taking a huge dump on a movie that hasn't even been released yet. Take that, James Cameron. Unfortunately, that level of great storytelling, CGI, and all-around great just characters is carried over into part 2, which of course can't be as good a film as part 1, because how do you follow up such an amazing movie? Which they try. They really try to. They do what every good sequel does, which is add more characters. Think of any sequel. It's better with more characters. Shrunk 2 gave us Puss in Boots. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the squeakquel, gave us gender bender version of every character. Every movie that has more characters in its sequel is automatically a better movie. So, what new characters does Stuart Little 2 give us? Well, we get Margalo, a bird. It's a bird-looking thing. And Falcon. It's kind of strange that they put an Avenger in this movie, but like, it was revolutionary for its time, once again. These characters, they're also CGI, so splitting the budget between 3 CGI characters means that certain shots don't look as good as they could, but they make up for it with these fantastic and well-designed characters. There is something to be said, though, about the fact that Margalo is a bird, but her beak, it moves like a human mouth. Like it moves like it has lips. I mean, that's nightmare fuel, you know? It's terrifying. But again, no movie can be as perfect as Stuart Little 1, but it does its best. The video game for this movie, by the way, is amazing. It's so cool. I remember my cousins had it on PS2, and like...
it's not the game.
What? Okay. So, apparently the video game for Stuart Little 2 came out on a different console, and what I'm thinking about is Stuart Little 3, Big Picture Adventure. But again, it's a great game. It's still allowed to be a great game, even if it's not based off the same movie. You know, it takes concepts from all 3 films and puts them into one, and to create this magical adventure. Like, there's a level where you play, like, in the plane from 2, and, like, hovercrafts, and it's just, it's a good game. And I think it should get more respect than it does. It's a classic from my childhood, and I want to see it brought back on PS4. Bring it back. Remaster it. There's a big audience. I think there's a big audience. Listen, maybe the CGI in this film isn't what we'd call the best, but as long as the characters feel alive enough through the dialogue and the story, we can kind of forgive it, you know? The story in this one is that George gets some real friends and doesn't need Stuart anymore. So Stuart, in an act of vandalism and revenge, wrecks the plane they've been working on. It's a miniature plane, so it doesn't matter that much. And decides to get a girlfriend to one-up his bro. So yeah, that's the thing. Unfortunately, as you can tell, this movie was made in 2002. Simpler times, different times. So Stuart has to conform to the heteropatriarchy's vision of relationships. They're fine with a mouse trying to bang a bird, but heaven forbid that the love interest be the same gender as the protagonist. Hollywood? What the fuck? Like, this whole movie goes on that relationship, that more than friends, the will they won't they between a mouse and a bird. They're not the same species. Like, they're not even, like, in the same category of animals. There's no way they could reproduce together. And I know that's not even the point, but, like, the whole movie is centered around their relationship, how Margalo's life is being controlled by this falcon-looking fucker. And Stuart Little is the only one who can help. And then there's like some family drama, but that's kind of secondary, really. I mean, they have another child. I don't know if they adopt that one as well, or they could always have kids, but decided to adopt. I mean, fine, adopt, but like, why then have more kids? Or did they choose another way to have it doesn't even matter. Like, the sister doesn't even play a pivotal role. Why is she there? Like the first one, it doesn't really have what you'd call a plot. It's kind of flimsy. It's more like vignettes of the life of this growing mouse. You know, we see different things in his life. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that there was a part 3 to the Stuart Little trilogy. There is a part 3 to the Estuardo Pequeño trilogy. Of course there's a part 3. There'd have to be a part 3. I mean, it's a trilogy. There has to be 3 movies for it to be a trilogy. So anyway, in this direct-to-video movie, the animation does look a lot less good than in its predecessors, but they did cast actors who look like badly rendered CGI characters, so it all kind of meshes together really well. I mean, look at this cat. Imagine how long it took to find a cat with fur like that, and they did it for love of the craft, for their passion. Good job. What's the plot of this movie? Have you seen any of the Tinkerbell movies? I mean, they're all pretty much the same. This movie is the same, but with more steps. The Stuarts go to the countryside. Stuart wants to go explore. He gets separated from the fam squad. Then he has to get his way back. And along the way, he might meet some cool and quirky characters. It's not good. I mean, you can tell just by looking at it that it's not good.
George, try looking up. The graphics are much better. Great resolution.
It's got that weird Spider-Man, the new animated series vibe, you know, that show that was on MTV after like the first Spider-Man movie. It's that kind of horrifying looking animation. In fact, I think one of the companies that made that show was involved in this. Rainmaker Studios, who made that show or co-made that show, also developed this movie. So yeah. I do have one problem with the Stuart Little franchise. Something that's bugged me since I was a kid. And it's, why can people understand Stuart Little but not the cats in the movie? Because the cats speak to Stuart Little, right? But only people understand Stuart Little. I mean, also like in the second one, they understand Margalo, which is like a bird, but they only understand that bird. But Stuart and Margalo, they can speak to the cats, but nobody understands the cats. Also, in the first one, Stuart's so-called parents come, driving a car, wearing clothes. Are all the mice in New York City sentient beings? Or is it just them? I mean, the second one, Stuart's car gets vandalized by
Tiny little vandals.
which suggests there's a community of these sentient living mice that understand human culture. But again, no one understands the cats or any of the other animals. Does this make any sense? Why? Why is it okay for the cats to run around naked but not the mice? Does that mean they're less? In this weird universe where Stuart Little is a thing? Are like mice on like a tier above all the other animals? But then they wear normal clothes. But Margalo, she only wears like a hat and a scarf. Does that mean she's nude? Because she can talk and communicate with people? What level is she on? Why did anyone think that this was a good thing to not, like, explain? These movies are wild. Like, who even thought this up? They make no sense. But yeah, apart from that, the movies, they're pretty good. They're family classics.